Assalamu alaikum. This is Ali Farooq again, and we are going to continue our topic from before with Dr. Khalid Saab. Khalid Saab, we were having an interesting conversation in my perspective about how to understand aspects of religion, topics that bother to us, and in general, how should we understand Islam. I just want to quickly recap. Of course, the first reference for someone to understand religion should be Quran itself, and that's the methodology applied by Ghamidi Saab. And I know also for a fact that in traditions and many other organizations that try to interpret Islam, they have followed different methodologies. Some of them say Hadith first and Quran first. Maybe they don't openly say that. There's a method to the madness out here. And we talked about uninterrupted continuity, which I thought was beautiful, right? So I just want to prick your brains a little bit, again, going back to this. And I know we're doing it a little bit casually, so we'll not structure the conversation very formally. But I want to go back. So someone has an issue or a challenge and they're trying to understand. They go and read the Quran and they don't find the answer. They go to an alim, and alim tells them this: there are things in Islam beyond which you should not challenge. And I was like, what? Right, this I experienced myself multiple times, right? And then with that perspective, that why can't you answer? And then there are few major big names that we have taken in the past as well, in our previous episodes. I've met them personally, and I know the way their attitude was about explaining Islam, a little bit more on the aggressive side, how they spoke, how they talked with authority, but you could not challenge them. Well, I'm a student. I want someone who can tell me calmly and always will have answer to my questions if they're claiming themselves to be a scholar, right? I believe if someone doesn't have answers and they give left and right answer, that basically means that knowledge is limited. So coming from that perspective, what is your opinion? You know, when people come and start understanding things from Ghamidi Sahab, what is the difference they will see, number one? And number two, when we see reasoning, how Ghamidi Sahab came to that reasoning? You know, because he's giving the answer based on a reason approach, right? Then I will go further on the reasoning side of the things.
You see, for one thing, it is the right of an individual, whether a Muslim or a non-Muslim, to ask a scholar questions about religion. Any question. There is no question that is a
bad question.
Bad question, prohibited. There is no area that can be called in religion a no-go area. If there are some people who are trying to tell you that these questions are not allowed, be absolutely sure that it's because they don't have the answers.
They don't have the answers.
So that's one thing that Ghamidi Sahab has helped us understand, that all questions are valid questions. You know, a person is bothered because of one problem or another that he's not able to understand. It is his right and it is the duty of a scholar to help him come out of that problem. Because unless you're clear about religion and various different religious issues, you cannot be convinced. And if you're not convinced, you cannot be a good, proper believer. Most people think that in order for us to be believers, we need to be emotionally attached to our tradition. The fact of the matter is, all human societies are emotionally attached to their respective traditions. So that's no virtue. The important thing that Ghamidi Sahab tells us is that we need to be clear about what the issue is and what is the religious perspective on it. So if somebody is going to come to him with a question, he would understand the question, and which is another virtue of him, you know. The Almighty has given him this remarkable ability to find out what the exact problem of the individual is, the intellectual problem. He picks the problem from there and relates it to the Quran and explains it through the logic that he has worked out, the system that he has in mind, methodology, and helps him understand that this problem is dealt with by religion in this manner. So the questioner, in most cases, feels pretty much comfortable.
So, and that's why he says that there is a reasoning behind everything, right? So you have to, if a young 13-year-old goes and asks him a question, they're looking for answers with reason that made them, otherwise they'll again ask why, but because you don't want to leave it up in the air, right? So do you think there is a method to the madness behind reasoning? So is there a school of thought methodology that is needed to be applied? It's not going to be random, right? That he just finds a reason. So does he apply something in particular to understand the reasoning on his own?
You see, an individual would do well to know that there are many questions that we come across in life. Some of those questions are religious in nature. Don't expect the Quran to answer the questions regarding nuclear technology or information technology, etc. God Almighty has given enough knowledge and motivation to humans to investigate and to do as well as they can to make their life comfortable, make their lives flourish in this world. Religion has a particular domain, which is regarding questions as to who created us, why did he create us, what is morally good from what is morally bad, etc. Why is the life the way it is, what is the ultimate goal, etc. So whenever you have a religious question, obviously you have a right to ask. And as I said, the religious scholar is duty bound to answer that question in the light of the religious tradition that he has. When it comes to us, Ghamidi Saab and his school of thought or his presentation, it's pretty simple. We will look at the Quran as to what it's saying regarding that matter. If it's a practical matter, we'll look at the Sunnah. We will look at the Hadith, but we look at the Hadith not as an independent body of knowledge, but as a piece of information which is to be seen in the light of the Quran and Sunnah. We'll use our common sense because hopefully most Muslims who have taken Islam seriously have already come to the conclusion that when they read the Quran with their open mind, open eyes, they came to the conclusion that the Quran satisfies the conditions of rationality. So we are convinced that it's God's word, but it's superior to our rationalism, our rational abilities, our intellect. So we would read the Quran with an open mind, surrendering ourselves before the Quran to find out what the Quran has to say about the topic that we are discussing.
Some people say that like a way PhD, you have to have a PhD in physics to understand a book from physics. So you have to be a scholar to understand Quran.
Well, then obviously we are not accountable to the Almighty for not understanding the Quran. The fact is that we are accountable. All Muslims are accountable to the Almighty for the way they approached religion. If you have to be a PhD in religion for you to be able to understand religion, well, the trouble with people like me is that there's not one PhD, there are 1,500 PhDs. Now, which PhD should I go to understand my religion? Because many of them are saying things which are different, opposite, contradictory.
Yes, that's
so, that's why your role as an individual, even if you are a layperson, is vital, is critical.
Why does traditional Islam refer to the people who are already Muslims, Like why? Because the way, as I said, there's a no-go areas, and a lot of time no-go areas are defined based on faith, right? Since you have faith in Allah Ta'ala, you're not supposed to ask this. They can matter of creating fear, right? But my question is that on one end, we are also told that everyone should die as a Muslim, for example, right? But how would non-Muslims become Muslim if they're not even being addressed from the people who are teaching traditional Islam?
You see, that's one of the major problems in understanding Islam the way it is. There was a time when Islam was presented by the Prophet, may God's mercy be on him. When prophets present God's message, it's presented so effectively, so convincingly, that the people belonging to his era, his contemporaries, have no choice. They see the truth so clearly that they can't reject it. They have no moral basis for it. There's no intellectual basis for it. For all those people, it is extremely important that they die as Muslims. To be a Muslim and to be a reasonable, rational, honest, moral human beings are the same thing. They mean the same thing. When God's message is presented effectively, and that happens when the prophets are there. The prophets leave this world and God's message is presented by us mortals, all people who are just ordinary people.
Yeah.
And our presentation has faults, is unimpressive. At times it's not making sense. So now what we should say, I'm just quickly concluding my whole presentation. Now what we should say is that every human being should be told that he or she should die as an honest person who accepts honestly what the truth is and follows honestly what he believes is true. Now, if Islam is going to be presented to such people, they will become Muslims. But if it is not going to be presented properly, they'll not be Muslims.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're putting a lot of value on human values, which should come regardless on top of, and automatically, if you have, majority of Muslims, they should be able to see that. But human values have no religion, they need to come first. But going back to your point, what I'm challenged again is, from a traditional school of thought that I've been part of and I've been taught, I mean, we're expecting non-Muslims to become Muslims. Well, a lot of our preaching happens to just Muslim only, so our preachers just go majorly in just Muslim countries, trying to preach already people who are already Muslims. And then our countries are configured in a way that are not friendly for non-Muslims to come to spend time. They don't know faith, they don't know what's right or wrong. They might think, let's say, drinking is okay. So we have not really opened up the door in a way they can come in our country to experience Islam.
Yeah, we have quite a few serious intellectual problems at hand for us to be able to justify our religious approach. For instance, there are Muslims, a large number of Muslims, who believe that whoever dies as a non-Muslim is destined to be thrown into the hellfire to roast there forever. That, on the one hand, and on the other hand is the scenario that you were mentioning, that Islam has not even been properly presented to these non-Muslims. They don't even know what Islam is. Well, to be honest, not many Muslims know what proper Islam is. So I think this whole idea has been messed up, because when the Prophet, may God's mercy be on him, was present himself, this understanding that whoever dies as a non-Muslim is going to be destined to be punished in the next life was true, was correct. Why? Because what the Prophet presented was absolutely clear, and nobody in his senses could reject it, except for being a kafir. A kafir is a person who rejects the truth knowingly. Now we must realize that we don't have the Prophet anymore, and it's us Muslims who have to present the message of Islam. And the message of Islam, if you ask me, it's in its essence is, there's one God who is the creator and who is running this show, who is managing the affairs of this world, and there's going to be another life after death, wherein God Almighty is going to make sure that He deals with human performance in this worldly life with justice. Everybody is going to be treated justly on the basis of merit. Unfortunately, we Muslims, the way we present Islam, it seems that God is not going to base His judgment on merit. He is not fair, God forbid. Yeah. The Quran is absolutely clear that God is absolutely fair.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, like, what pinches me a little bit about this is the whole word, as you said, kafir, right? So there's a guy who's a philanthropist and goes and helps the handicapped and adopts the handicapped to live with him, and is always an honest person. There's another guy who's a Muslim, but I can see him, let's say, sneaking into taxes and tax deductions and misusing the whole system, maybe praying 5 times a day. But he believes that since the other guy has not taken faith in Islam, even though all the good attributes, he is going to go to hell, and this guy is going to go to Jannah.
I think I would like to use as much energy I have to shout and say that this is wrong. This is not Islam. This is not what the Quran says. The two categories that we have now are the categories of Muslims and non-Muslims. The categories of a Mu'min believer and a kafir are to be decided by God. And am I going to surprise you if I say that the Quran is very clearly stating that even Muslims, the so-called Muslims, can be kafirs? So the word kafir is not actually distinguishing Muslims from non-Muslims. It's an expression which the Quran uses to talk about people who know what the truth is, but they deny and reject it knowingly, either because they are arrogant or because they are so overwhelmed by their desires that they don't want to accept the truth.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense, and I'll agree that I've never heard anyone saying that Muslims can be kafir. There's a lot of negative connotation on kafir, and it's more about the people who are not Muslims, right? So it's beautifully said, kind of makes more sense to me. Want to go back before we wrap up the session today, a little bit more on the evolutionary process, because I feel, as I said, there's a method to the madness about correction and correcting yourself when you learn. So there's always learning about Islam, right? Or do you believe that everything we want to know about Islam is already set to stone and we already know? Or do you think there's still more research that can take place to understand Islam, right?
Did you get, I tried to clarify who a kafir is and why God is so upset with a kafir. A kafir is a person who rejects the truth knowingly. Now, coming to your question, if you think that the traditional religion that has been given to you is what you must, believe in and stay strictly attached to, then is it not that you're doing much the same thing?
Yeah, you're not finding
the
anything.
Truth. You are not prepared to listen to a point of view which is inviting your attention to find out what the truth is, and what you are saying is just about the same thing which the kuffar used to say. We're not going to listen to you.
Because we are going to follow what our ancestors were saying.
Absolutely. So this is something which is a seriously messed up understanding, and I think we should very politely, we need to be very polite, because obviously people get emotional about it, but we want to invite the attention of all our Muslims, brothers and sisters, to look at this understanding that the Quran has given us, that we must always seek the truth. And religion and God's message is nothing but the truth.
Yeah, and also towards, because we have, going back to Javed Ahmed Ghamidi Sahab, I personally have seen that his opinion, and we talked about it before as well, has evolved as well. So that means that he's always trying to find the right thing. That doesn't mean he was always right. That meant that there were probably things he said that he corrected once he learned a lot more. And he's going to continue that journey. And after him, people are going to continue that journey to learn Islam throughout, right? Finding God and finding religion probably will never end.
He has no choice. If Ghamidi Sahab stops evolving, we, his very ordinary students, would ask him, what's gone wrong? Sir, you've taught us all along that we've got to continue to look at what the truth is and accept it, embrace it. So why is it that you've stopped thinking about it? So he has no choice. That's what he stands for.
So you agree that there are multiple occasions where he was able to change his opinion because of the evolutionary learning, either his student brought forward to him or he himself came towards?
Absolutely. That's what happened. If you allow me, I would refer to the famous economist John Maynard Keynes.
Yeah.
He had many contemporaries who were jealous of him. That's quite natural, When somebody is outstanding, there are people who are jealous of him. About him, it used to be said that he had multiple opinions which he would consider simultaneously, and quite often he would change his opinions. So somebody asked him, why is it that you continue to change your opinions? And he said that it's very simple. When I get a new information, argument, or fact as against what I've been accepting previously, I change. My question is, what do the others do?
Yeah. Khalid Sahab, we are short of time here. This is a very interesting topic, and I would have wanted to continue, but we're trying to wrap up everything within 15 to 17 minutes over here. My topics in future, I would like to continue about, people, there's a lot of fatwas out there, for example, and there's a traditional thinking. Of course, the topics Khalid Sahab has addressed a lot of times, but I want to address that in English, like about music, about parda, and about misconceptions about just general faith and belief. So we'd love to continue this. It was lovely having you here in Dallas, and hopefully if we can do more sessions.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum.